Have you ever wondered what the real difference is between someone who just kind of does their job and someone who truly masters their profession? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. The journey from just doing the bare minimum to achieving real deep mastery.
So let me ask you something. When you look at your work, especially if it's analytical, do you just see a series of boxes to check off, a checklist you have to get through before you can call it a day? That's a super common way to see it, but it kind of misses the entire point of what professional work is all about.
See, professional work isn't supposed to be mechanical. It's not about being a robot and just following a set of steps. At its very core, it's about making professional judgments. And that requires a completely different way of thinking.
Okay, so this is where we have to move beyond that checklist mindset. Because once you understand the real stakes, you realize just how massive the consequences of your mindset can truly be. Think about a field like auditing, for example. This kind of high-stakes work is really a blend of four key things. It's analytical work, of course. You're digging into the details. But it's also judgment work, where your decisions have serious weight. It's risk-based work, which means you're constantly thinking about what could go wrong. And crucially, it's often a public responsibility. The quality of your work isn't just about a procedure. It's about public trust.
So this brings every professional to a fork in the road. There are two very distinct paths you can take, and the one you choose is defined entirely by your mindset. And that choice, it's going to shape the entire trajectory of your career.
Let's break down what these two mindsets actually look like day to day. On one hand, you've got the minimum mindset. This person just follows the list. They don't really know the why behind what they're doing, and they pretty much stay on the surface. But the mastery mindset, that's a whole different ballgame. That person is all about understanding the purpose. They see the entire big picture, and most importantly, they think for themselves.
And the long-term results? They couldn't be more different. The minimum path? Well, it leads to slow, confused work. You end up depending on other people for answers, and eventually, your career just kind of stagnates. But the mastery path? That's what makes you efficient and confident. You become that reliable, trusted expert, and your skills just accelerate like crazy.
It's really not just about doing better work today. It's about the kind of professional you're going to become tomorrow. One path puts a ceiling on your potential, while the other one builds a launch pad.
Okay, so if we're going to choose the path of mastery, what's the foundation? Turns out there are three core pillars you really need to build your professional mindset on.
The first pillar is an absolute game changer: purpose over process. You have to stop seeing your work as just a series of tasks. Your real job is to understand the context, the business, the potential risks, and the fundamental why behind every single thing you do.
And here's a great way to put this into practice. Before you start any task, just ask yourself this: what is the actual risk I'm trying to deal with here? And based on that risk, what evidence is truly the most important? Asking these questions shifts you from just being a follower to being a strategist.
Now, the second pillar might feel a little counterintuitive, but it's so critical. Preparation over speed. Yeah, everyone wants to be fast, but true sustainable speed doesn't come from rushing. It comes from the hard work you put in at the beginning, studying, planning, and really deeply understanding the terrain before you act.
It's a pretty simple equation when you think about it. The effort you invest up front pays off big time in speed and accuracy later on. Rushing at the start only leads to confusion and having to redo work, which is actually the slowest path of all.
And that brings us to the final pillar: ownership over obligation. This is all about accountability. You're not just doing work because you were told to. You're doing it because your name is on it, and the quality of your work is a direct reflection of your professional integrity.
So what does ownership look like in the real world? It's all about building non-negotiable habits. Double-checking your work before you hit submit, making sure all your links and evidence are complete and make sense, making sure your reasoning is clear and your conclusions are logical. It's about taking that extra 5 minutes to make sure your work is not just done, but done right.
So, understanding the pillars is one thing, but how do you actually live them out? This is about turning all that theory into practice with a simple, repeatable framework for building mastery every single day.
The framework has 4 basic steps. First, revisit your training materials and resources until you actually understand them. Don't just skim. Second, apply that knowledge immediately to your work. Third, ask questions, but good questions, the kind that show you've already tried to figure it out yourself. And finally, be consistent. You have to make this cycle a habit.
And this is the crucial point here. The purpose of all those training materials and guides
It isn't just for you to use them. The real goal is for you to absorb them and build your own independent capability, so that eventually you don't even need them anymore.
Now, when individuals start to adopt this mastery mindset, it doesn't just change them. It starts to build a really powerful team culture. You see, a culture of excellence isn't an accident. It's a deliberate collective choice.
This becomes the team's mission. The goal isn't just to get it done, but to make absolutely sure the work is correct, that it's relevant, and that it meets a really high standard of quality.
This just reinforces that core idea we started with. Professionals aren't robots, they're thinkers. They understand the why, and they lead with their own intellect, not just with a list of instructions.
Ultimately, it all comes down to this. Quality isn't a talent you're born with, or something that just magically happens. It is a conscious, deliberate choice that you have to make every single day. And that's what it all comes down to. One decision made over and over again. The choice to put in the effort, the choice to think deeply, the choice to own your work. Everything, the quality, the growth, your career, it all stems from this single personal choice.
So as we wrap up, the question is really for you. Your mindset isn't just an attitude, it's the engine that will determine your entire professional future. So knowing that, which path will you choose?